Okay, all right. Caleb Dow Booth, thank you so much for talking to me today and welcome to my podcast, A Conversation About Art. Uh, Please tell our viewers and listeners, the people who will view and listen to this video, who you are and what you do.
Thank you, Gabby. It is an honor to be on your show and to just kind of have a little bit of a dialogue discussion.
Yes.
So my name is Caleb Booth, and I am currently in Ohio. Um, Gabby and I met at the New York Academy of Art, and I was there for a while and in New York for a while. But then, along with the pandemic, I actually had an opportunity to move out to Ohio and take a teaching job. So that's what I'm doing right now, teaching at a university and just wrapping up my second year. So it's pretty wild. We just started final exams here at the end of the semester. So a bit of a burden off my shoulders. Still got some
Okay.
stuff to wrap up, but that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Okay, so you said something about the pandemic just now.
Mhm.
You left because of the pandemic?
Yeah, well, a funny story. Like basically all my ties to New York City, which I was very invested in, kind of got closed. They kind of dried up. So, um, I had a two different jobs, kind of supporting my life as an artist, and so I lost one of them the December before, leading up to the pandemic, because the gallery basically closed its doors permanently.
Mm.
Um, Not related to pandemic. But then I was like, well, that's fine. I just have more time to do art.
Mm-hmm.
And then I basically ended up losing my part-time job at the New York Academy of Art, where I
You were in
was
the wood shop, right?
a woodshop technician. So
Yes.
uh, lost that job too. So I was basically, sitting in my apartment with, no uh, prospective job opportunities, applying to all sorts of teaching jobs or anything really, and obviously no one's hiring during the
Mm.
pandemic.
Mm.
So, and eventually I heard back from this place here, which was a really really cool moment for me. So yeah, that's kind of what happened. Is I was basically kind of closed off from everything and lost a lot of things I had going for me in New York, and decided to take that opportunity to check out what else is going on and try and get my foot in the teaching world.
But then the job in Ohio, I mean, you were applying to things outside of New York also then. Is that right?
Oh yeah, I was. So part of being on the, without a job, you get your, um, I guess what is it, welfare checks or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you have to apply to jobs, and I was like, well, that's a good excuse because I need to be doing that anyways. But I was like, why is this something that I should be pursuing outside of New York?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I got a lot of what I wanted to out of New York, and this might be an opportunity that was being open to me to check out other types of jobs or different places around the country. So I was literally applying all over the U.S., like literal U.S. and Canada as well. Like anything
Uh-huh.
in those two areas, I was like, if it says art, I'll check it out and throw
Okay.
my application in there.
Yeah, yeah, that's how you that's a really big pool of opportunities to look for there.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is it that you wanted to get out of New York?
I feel like so obviously I went there for my master's,
Mm.
and I got that, and then I was like, well, what does it mean to be an artist? And so I thought I'd just spend some time trying to figure that out. And I was about 4 years out of school at that point, out of the master's program, and it, I'd worked as um, an art handler at a gallery, a decent gallery. I had learned a lot from that. I worked at the graduate school at the New York Academy of Art and learned a lot from that position in, kind of behind the scenes of the graduate school, as well as just hands-on how to assist people and kind of walk people through processes. So it felt like it was helpful for teaching and kind of one-on-one stuff. And um, I think that's, yeah, it didn't feel like there was a lot of opportunity for me to um, continue to grow there, because it felt like it was it's oversaturated with overqualified people. And so in a lot of ways, um, if I wanted to teach, I think in some ways I was advised that you basically have to be willing to go anywhere,
Mm-hmm.
out in the middle of nowhere, before to get experience, to then, if you want to use that, to leverage it for other places. So that was kind of, some of my thoughts, is like, all right, like, had some really great experiences, and uh but obviously, like, it's a really overqualified pool of artists in New York. And so if things weren't going to start happening, why not just keep pushing elsewhere and see if I can make um, more inroads, or grow as a person, as an artist, in places where it's more sustainable for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know that, paying the bills is not easy in New York.
Of
And
course.
so basically you kind of have to, yeah, it's kind of a balance. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you pay your bills versus more time in the studio, and it never feels
Unfortunately, yeah.
good for each. So
There's that yeah, that balancing act. Okay, so then I mean, does that mean that you're planning to return to New York at some point, or you're just gonna?
no immediate plans, but I do think that it would be good to keep my proverbial foot in the door, and continue relationships, and
Ah, of course,
at
yeah.
least be able to, if I
If
wanted
you
to.
wanted to, of course.
Yeah, because
Okay.
it's kind of where things are happening, especially art wise. So um, it's good just for being in contact and networking. And
All right.
uh,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, that's good. So, talk to me a little bit about your work. Um, so I was looking on your website, and it looks like you do drawing, painting, sculpture, and printmaking. And when you paint, is it generally oil over canvas?
Yeah. So
Okay.
a lot of broad, medium types, kind of interdisciplinary in some ways.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Paintings are usually either oil, or start with an acrylic kind of
Ground.
charcoal base, and then oils on top.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. But wait, I wanted to ask you more stuff before you get further into there. I mean, is any of the four mediums like? Do you consider any of them like your main medium?
I think most often in paintings and things that go on walls, I have ideas for other things, but I think that's typically thinking in compositions in the two-dimensional,
Mm-hmm.
um, what gets me excited.
Okay. Okay. So even if you kind of have like this main medium, which is oil over canvas, why do you think that you sometimes still want to reach out to drawing, printmaking, and sculpture?
I think it's a good thing to be able to have your feelers out into different materials, mediums, because I find that it really influences, and it's kind of cross-pollinating all these things,
Mm-hmm.
so that one will influence the other, and that will give you ideas for another. Um, and I think that that's kind of some of the challenge of being an artist, is you get stuck somewhere and you're like, "Ah, I can't push through this right now."
Mm-hmm.
Having something else you can go to be able to say, all right, I know what I want to do over here, or I can definitely get the ball going. Um, and so that's some of it. I think part of it is also, in our current culture and climate, there's less need to be a
Hyper specialized in
specialized.
something.
Yeah, I think that it's really seen as, even our experience at a master's level. It was like, in the end, you're getting a master's of fine art. It doesn't really matter what you're saying your focus is, because uh, it, it's kind of just like you're an artist. So I think that's the thing. there's obviously advantages to having a specialized focus, but um, I think I appreciate the uh, freedom that kind of trying different mediums does.
Hmm. Okay, so then having the other mediums, I mean, doing things in the other mediums is um, kind of a, I was gonna say a release, but that doesn't seem accurate based on what you were saying. So it's kind of more like a place where you can make work if and or when you're stuck in something else, so that you don't stop making stuff. Is that right?
I think, yeah, hard to say if that would be the primary reason why, but I think as a creative person, as someone who's meant to be creative,
Mm-hmm.
kind of part of what I do, it's like I don't necessarily care what the material is.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's more about uh, enjoying that ability to kind of think outside of the box and try something and, and go with it and enjoy the process. So I think that each of those mediums allow for that kind of creative and fun exploration. Um, and so, yeah, I have limited myself in the past where in undergraduate school I had a lot of friends who were doing ceramics and kind of more functional uh, clay type stuff. And I thought to myself, you know what? I don't have enough time in this world to continually be spreading out. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I want to get better in some areas and go deeper and not just wider.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, that was one place where I said, okay, I'm gonna hold back. But yeah, it's an exciting thing to be able to try all these things. It's it's challenging to be proficient at all of them. So I think
Yeah.
I've found some areas that I think uh, complement each other,
Mm-hmm.
um, and they're not just totally starting over. So
Okay. So you also mentioned about this having several mediums available to you to work, that there's cross pollination and that they inform each other. So how would you say, how do they inform each other for you? How does like printmaking inform painting, or drawing inform painting, for example?
that is a great question because I think it was in my graduate studies that I was exposed to printmaking. I hadn't had much experience before, but printmaking can typically be like you're very precise and you follow the same steps and it's all very controlled so that you get the exact same print.
Mm.
But another way of printmaking is creating monotypes,
Mm-hmm.
unique, one of a kind uh, works of art that use the printing press. So I was exposed to that and I tried it and then like it was very liberating. It created a lot of unique textures and kind of letting go of some of the form and the precision and accuracy and just kind of going with it. And so that was actually a lot of fun. And I had that, I think, my second year of the master's program, uh, or towards this second year, but it basically influenced my whole thesis show where
Mm-hmm.
I went back into painting and all of that stuff translated into paint. And so I allowed things to just kind of unravel.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a lot of fun. It was different.
Oh, okay, but then in that, I want like more specificity still. So
Mhm.
like with I mean, I have not done monotypes. I know more or less how they work.
Yeah.
Um, so then, um,
I could
yeah, yeah,
try.
no, go
I
ahead,
could
please.
try.
Yes, yes.
So, okay. So one of the things we did with monotypes is you get like a jar of ink, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you get your jar, you take off the lid, and then we had these like mat board little squares, and you would actually use that to dip the ink out of.
Mm-hmm.
And so then you're applying that to a plexiglass surface. Um, and you're basically creating your drawing or whatever else painting
Mm-hmm.
uh, on it. Um, And so that allows you to then start to work with a different type of tool. So
Mm-hmm.
instead of a brush, instead of a pencil, you've got kind of like
The
a,
marks are different, I bet.
yeah. And the ink itself is a lot tackier, a lot stickier.
It's
So
printmaking, and right for like lithography.
uh, lithography is a bit different. You're using like the grease crayon, and you're working, and it becomes a planograph, so it's all the same surface.
Yeah, but like the ink that you're using to paint with on the
Yeah,
monotype, is it
yeah.
lithography
I think
painting?
you can use the same type for lithography. It's like an etching ink.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I started to, when you drag it across the surface, this sticky substance, it kind of scumbles on it. It doesn't really create a nice clean brush stroke.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a lot rougher. It's a lot more aggressive. And then you also have you can get all sorts of different uh, paper towels or cheesecloth or whatever, and you can kind of brush off some
Mm-hmm.
of
Mm-hmm.
that,
Mm-hmm.
and it almost looks like kind of claw marks where you can. It's really kind of rough, textural, and I think I really appreciate that when with painting, I was trying to get more and more precise and a lot cleaner and a lot more accurate to the values and the colors I'm seeing.
Mm-hmm.
And the brush strokes were, yes, I was laying them down, but um, it felt like it was, different goals. And so it was a lot more constricted.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas
Mm-hmm.
with printmaking, it allowed me to like have something, a different experience where I'm not as
Not trying to be tight.
careful.
Mm-hmm.
I could actually just enjoy the process more, and I could work faster,
Mm-hmm.
and then be like, couple hours, knock that out. It did something. I put it through the press. Interesting. Let me try something else. Um, so
Okay.
yeah, I'd say that's some of the ways that it's. Was that?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean that makes a lot of sense. That experiencing not just like the physical, how different it feels physically to do the things, and like the different physical object and all of this stuff. It's like, oh, this is different, and I'm still making a thing. But then the thing you're making also looks different once it's printed, and just like the process and everything. And it makes perfect sense that you would like to try to do that in the medium that you're more familiar with, especially if you feel like you're getting too focused on a way of doing something. Then you're like, I'm gonna I mean, it makes sense that these things would kind of go in the focus and like kind of spread it a little bit, and
Yeah,
okay, yeah, I
yeah.
can see how that's really gratifying.
It's also it's an additive process. You're adding the ink, but you can also take it off with like we're talking about the various textures you can scrub it off with, but you can also add like a mineral spirit and break it down, and it
Mm-hmm.
kind of spreads out
Yeah, because mineral spirits dissolve the paint, right?
dissolves the ink so that it loosens it up, and then you can wipe off different ways. You can get a Q-tip and wipe off little details. It's like it's kind of like a very push and pull. You're
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
adding, taking off, you're playing back and forth. Um, yeah.
Okay. Yes, thank you very much for going into that. That makes a lot of sense.
You're
Okay.
welcome.
Talk to me a little bit about now the subject matter of your work. What would you say you were painting about, or just making work about generally?
Yeah, I find that this creative expression is something that's kind of part of who I am, how I'm wired. Um, and so, in a lot of ways, a lot of the things that I am creating are reflecting me.
Mm-hmm.
It might be helpful to talk a little bit about, what I am, my worldview at this point, if that's what you're interested in.
Yeah, of course.
So, I was raised as a Christian. So my parents are they were missionaries. We were in Budapest, Hungary for 7 years, and then Canada for 8. And my dad teaches at a seminary, and you're probably very different upbringing from a someone who's grown up in the same country. Uh, but I had a lot of experiences cross culturally, and basically, I came to faith at a young age. At around 6 or 7, I was like, "All right, I'm gonna try this. I'm gonna put my faith in this. I'm gonna step into it. And then around 11, I really took the next step, and I was actually baptized. So at for a, I guess, a Protestant Baptist way of going things, you aren't just christened as a baby. It's like once you believe it yourself, you have a believer's baptism. So
Oh,
that's,
that's so interesting. I didn't know that.
yeah, it's a little different. And so in a way, you're basically claiming it.
You're choosing it.
Yes, and so it's not something that can be chosen for you, which I think is important. And
Mm-hmm.
because otherwise it's like, well, you can't really control that as a baby. But anyways, so that is how I have been shaped, is basically this understanding that there is a God, and that he's the one who's created everything, um, and he's intimately involved with all of it. And so that really is kind of what influences me from my heart. And it's this, basically, that I want to, in a way, seek to love him and to understand him, and know what that actually means to be uh, faithful to him. And so obviously the Bible is a huge influence in that. I believe that it is God's word revealed to mankind. um,
Is
and
the
so
Bible? I mean, it's the same. So,
for Protestants versus Catholics, I think there's a few books that were not canonized in the Protestant one. So we have 66 books of the Bible that create the Bible. We got Old and New Testament.
okay.
Um, and so there's probably, I think, I'm not entirely sure off the top of my head, but there's definitely a couple of books where it's like, we wouldn't count that.
Okay. All right. That was a little tangent there. Keep going. Sorry.
All good, all good.
I was just
Um,
curious.
yeah, and so you know, like, everyone is. I believe that everyone was created by God to be in relationship with Him, and obviously there's the basis of the religion, which is, we've kind of fallen away. We've broken that tie, and so He's made a way for us to come back and be uh, to be known and fully loved and fully known. That is, I think, a really beautiful thing, and it's kind of why we do, I think, do anything. Like, everything is a reflection of that story. Whether
Finding our way to God.
yeah, like,
Or no, like you said, like appreciating Him, right?
yeah, and so, what I think, what He has given us and shown us about Himself, which comes through nature, which comes through the Bible, um, is like what our purpose should be. And so a lot of people think it's like, well, find personal happiness or peace, or you know there's kind of all sorts of ideas out there about what the point of life is. But I would say that the point of life is um, to know God, and to be reconciled to God, to um, accept that we are created by Him, but also to then live in a way that is like full of life, because
Mm-hmm.
that's what He created us for. Not just to be stuffy rule followers, but to appreciate and enjoy and be grateful for this experience that He gives us. And it's not just for this life; it's actually for uh, our step beyond, like after we die. I think that this is basically just the prelude, and what is to come is actually kind of the main the main part of what we're created for. Um, so a lot of stuff I've just said, and it's probably a little bit sporadic and not as concise as I would love it to be. But um, I think that my art, in a way, is an investigation of what that means, what it means to be in a world that was created for you to enjoy and to live fully, and to love other people, and to um, honor God with our gifts. And so uh, I find that it's incredible that art, in a way, it doesn't have a lot of sense. It doesn't make sense. It's not like I'm healing people, or I'm not in a hospital like a doctor. I'm not, somehow curing all of life's problems. So it's a bizarre thing that we would even do art, because you're like, well, the purpose is to help humanity. Well, it's like art really doesn't have a huge space to stand on. So I find that my exploration of art and finding God in nature and in the Bible and wrestling what does it mean to actually have a soul and a spirit and not just be flesh and bone, and so I'm wrestling with all these things in my work in a meaningful way, me at least, and so it's a mystery. It's not like super clear, like, all right, I get it. It's obviously I think that'd be a little bit too simplistic if someone was able to say that, oh yeah, this is
that they get it.
I get it. And so for me, it's kind of like I get to wrestle with those things. I get to learn and research and allow that stuff to kind of get mixed in with my work, and then I create these objects that are kind of like tangible, calcified things that of this ethereal other, of this invisible. So I feel like so much of our life is just trying to, we're like, well, I gotta eat, I gotta sleep, and then I'm not thinking about the fact that I have emotions and I have all these other things that are immaterial. Like we're so focused on the material, and so I think that that's kind of what my art gets to be, is a wrestling through what does it mean, what's behind it all, and then how do I get to enjoy this process and get to know God more. And so that's, I guess, a really just pathetic way of saying that I'm trying to figure this stuff out in my artwork, and a lot of it's just like wrestling with and experimenting and enjoying these aspects of beauty, these visual elements of design. Like, how do I compose something? Why is something more pleasing this way and not that way? Or kind of, I guess, even why you're asking questions about like what is art and what is beauty and what is your influence and purposes. We're all trying to figure out, like, what's even going on here. I think that in a beautiful way, art lets us do that like business isn't necessarily or being a chef or whatever else you do. I don't know.
The whole idea about art not having a practical purpose in the same way that engineering or medicine does has come up. I mean, not necessarily as a negative thing, or at least I don't see it as a negative thing. I just think that to me, that means that it's just more difficult to find out what it is, but it's there. And who was I talking? I mean, who I was talking to doesn't necessarily matter, but I was talking to this person. Brian Booth Craig, a sculptor. It was a previous episode.
Okay.
And I mean, I'm sure you know that art. Humans have been making art for a very long time, and they're just finding older and older things, or just things that are hundreds of thousands of years old. It's like, I don't remember how old the oldest art is so far, but there's just all kinds of stuff. There's the little Venuses, there's like these whatever. The thing is that there's some old shit. Okay, it's old. So like the fact that we have been doing it, and arguably maybe they will keep finding older and older things, like going farther and farther back along with human history. So it's like, if we've been doing that arguably as long as we were trying to hide in a cave and hunting for food and trying to keep making babies so that we could stick around, and all that stuff, arguably the purpose of art is actually really, really important. Like, even if we can't necessarily be like, yeah, you save lives if you're a doctor, or you help people live better if you're a doctor, this kind of stuff. Or like with engineering, you make a bridge and people can transport themselves more easily. It's like, even if we can't necessarily say purposes of art like with short phrases like that, it doesn't mean that there isn't a very important thing there. It's like just because it isn't practical at first or easily practical or whatever it is doesn't mean that it isn't. Okay. So, all right. I'm struggling about what to ask you because I have other questions about stuff and not a lot of time. Okay, so, all right, so right off, you made this connection between your work as an artist and religion, like your personal, your belief. So, I guess, I don't quite know where to start, but I don't think it necessarily matters. What is religion?
Right. And that could be an interesting thing to talk about because I think a lot of people assume religion these days or think about religion these days as kind of like a kind of like yoga. Like, it's like, well, if it works for you, that's great. Like,
Uh-huh.
like, or hey, you should try it out. It might work for you.
Mm.
And then you try it out and it's like, oh yeah, well, it's helping me this way or it's helping me that way. I think my understanding of Christianity is it's not like a kind of a buffet of like, I'll choose this and I don't like that, but I'll take this. My understanding has become it is a reality. Like it is, you either accept it as the reality or you know, or you deny it that that's the reality. But if it is a reality, it's basically like, it's kind of like waking up in a different country one day and being like, or in the same country, but realizing that, oh wait, like now I'm under some other authority figure or some sort of, like a different set of rules or something. Or I was living like this, but then I wake up in the next day and I realize, oh, that wasn't actually what I was supposed to be doing. And so, like, let's say if someone was to take me and take me to, let's say, the UK or something, and blindfold me, and I didn't know where I was, and I woke up the next day, and it's like, if I start driving on the right side of the road, I would be driving on the wrong side of the road. And it would be silly for me to say, this is the way it is, because really it's like, no, you're now in a different country. These are the things that govern the people and the way that you live. And so it's not something, religion, I would say, is not something that I can pick and choose from. It's like I have to kind of accept it as it declares itself to be, and has been in the past, and accept it that way. The other thing I would want to say about it is that it's more, my understanding is also it's a relationship. It's not just like a set of rules, like do this, don't do this. It's more about like, you get to understand that you're created by someone, by God, and he knows every aspect of me better than I know myself. And he's seeking to enliven me and grow me and strengthen me and make me into the person that he wants me to be. And it's like intimately involved. And so it's not like all right, I got to remember to brush my teeth and do this and do this. It's more about like, oh wait, like I have a best friend. Like I have someone that I can relate to on everything, who is for me and wants me to succeed and to experience life in a way that's not just, now you're responsible for XYZ, but it's like, oh, you get to actually be like, hey, thank you for this. Like I have someone to thank for this beauty in front of me. This is wildly amazing. Or wow, this is a really tough thing for me to get through right now. It feels like I'm alone, but I know you're there. Yeah, it's more like the relationship than the religion. I hope that's helpful. Is there anything else I could expound upon that you were curious about? What?
So religion, I'm gonna try to see if I understand by like repeating with my own words. So then religion is a reality that one accepts willingly.
Yeah, it's basically slowly coming to terms with the fact that at first I was after my own comforts, my own agenda, my own thoughts, my own dreams, goals, hopes,
Mm-hmm.
and then realizing, oh, I'm not my own in a way, that I'm actually uh, responsible to a God, to the creator of the world, and he has a purpose for me. He has uh, a goal for me, a hope, and a vision for me. And so in a way, I have to kind of accept that and give up and be willing to give up all those things that I had previously held on to as like, this is what I'm about. And to be able to say, all right, God, what do you want me to do? What would you have for me? Um, and so in a lot of ways, you have to be willing to totally give up that previous way of life to then accept this, what I believe
The
is
relationship.
the fullest expression of life, which is to know your creator and to live by his design, his purpose, his love for you. And so obviously I think that was accomplished through Jesus, uh, and what he was able to do, which I couldn't, which was live a perfect life, and then in a way offer up that to me through his death and resurrection. Um, yeah. Is that helpful? Is that confusing?
No, no. I mean, I guess I can't say whether it will be straightforward for somebody else listening. I mean, I have a degree of familiarity with what you're talking about because I grew up Catholic. I was raised Catholic, and there's differences between I don't know, regular. I don't know what to call it. A Catholic and Protestant. Like,
Protestant.
yeah, I didn't know the thing about the baptism. That's really interesting. And I do like the deliberate on purpose choosing, like, all right, I'm ready to be baptized.
Yeah.
That's really cool. It's like choosing to go to the military or something. Choosing anything really. It's like, all right, I choose to be in a relationship with this person and make it work and put the work in and that kind of stuff. It's like it makes me think of that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's I would say that it is a choice everyone will have to make, whether accepting it or rejecting it. It's a personal choice, and I don't think it can be forced on you.
Okay, so all right, now what is art in your opinion, Caleb?
Art. I think it is the creative act of expression that someone gets to have, that is somehow saying and exploring humanity or our relationship to God. And so I think that would be my concise answer. There's obviously a lot more to it, I think, but I think it is a way of expression that other means don't provide. So,
Okay, so how does art provide? What does art provide that other means of expression? Like what? Like you mean like writing or?
yeah, like self-reflection in a way. So like writing is one way, or singing music or creating music is another way. But it's kind of exploring these immaterial aspects of humanity. And like we said, it's so hard to actually kind of put your finger on it. But I think it's a field where all these other things are pushed out of it, where it's like it's not necessarily for providing for my well-being. Like I'm not paying rent with this necessarily. I'm not somehow gaining accolades or something. Like for me, it is basically an exploration and adventure of there's clearly something else beyond just the materiality of life. There's so much more that is like governing like my conscience and my emotions, there's like love, the idea of love as being not just chemical reactions, but like a choice and something incredibly beautiful about it. And so I think that art allows us to engage with that immaterial aspect of what it means to be human that we don't get to explore in other ways necessarily. So I think visually, I think that's kind of what we get to do.
Okay. Um, all right. Well, I mean, I'm personally trying to get rid of the stigma or the stereotype of the starving artist. Um, just because, I mean, first of all, it has been around for a very long time. And when I say very long time, I mean centuries and centuries and centuries that it's just been there. I don't know. It's kind of frustrating that it's there. And I mean, I guess it's because some really famous artists were the living stereotype of the the starving artist that was just like toiling in a inhumane, just like ridiculous, in spite of what Van Gogh and other people, drunks,
Right.
promiscuous, whatever.
Right.
And that's cool and everything, and I guess it's them who happened to become famous, but at the same time, there's also the other people like the Renaissance people. I mean, Leonardo da Vinci, he busted his ass, even though he was a bit procrastinating. But he busted his ass, and I mean, so did Michelangelo, and so did Raphael. They busted their ass, and they were able to get paid either way. I've been reading about the pre-Raphaelites for a while now. I have said that I think every episode now for like 7, almost 10 episodes now that I'm reading about them because they're cool.
Right.
And they, the author of the thing that I'm reading now, which is one of the founders of the pre-Raphaelites, which is William Holman Hunt. He was like, no, I must try to. He was like always trying. He was always working really hard, and by working I mean painting. He was painting all the time. He was always like very demanding of like the scenes from which he painted, and he would like was really specific about what he was looking for, and he would like invest the time in looking for the spot that he wanted to paint from, the people that he wanted to paint from. And I don't know, I just find it frustrating that this stereotype just looms over us kind of in the present day, and we let it. It's just kind of annoying out, and I guess I'd like to. And I mean, it probably doesn't help what we were talking about a second ago, that we don't know exactly what the purpose of art is. Art is like really chaotic and murky in those terms. It's like, oh, what is an artist? What is art? What does art do? It's like, why do we want to make art? It's like all of this stuff leads to the cesspool that the art world is right now, that it's unregulated. It's just ridiculous. It's a joke. Nobody takes it seriously, but then somebody pays millions and millions of dollars for something that is a joke.
Yeah.
I'm not going to name them, not going to give them airtime. But I don't know. I just think it's is there something in like the Protestant type religion that God gives you the burden that you can handle? I mean, that's in the Bible, isn't it?
You will not be tempted beyond what you can bear.
Okay.
That's one. Another would be, take on my burden, my yoke, which is Jesus is saying that. He's like, for my burden is easy and my yoke is light. So he's basically saying, come under my wing and I'm going to be the one to muscle through this.
Okay. I guess I don't never read the Bible really like by myself. I just listen to things in church and mass. But there's definitely something about God giving you what you can handle and maybe like a smidge more because you can handle it. Something like that, So it's like, it just occurred to me really in the middle of the conversation while complaining about the art world that maybe we deal with this burden of, or, I don't know if you think you deal with the burden, but artists deal with the burden of art because we can handle and we'll be able to do something good with that, hopefully.
I think That's a beautiful thought. I think that, yeah, we, in a way, we're dealing out on the periphery of, society,
Mm-hmm.
um, because it's not an easy place, but because it is something that we're so engaged with, we're so enthralled by. But yeah, I mean, that's definitely why I've never wanted to rely on my work to make a living, to be able to survive, because I think that in some ways it allows me more freedom to actually make what I'm interested in, and not be like, well, this person really likes, pink and green, so I'm gonna try and make
Mm-hmm.
something that they like, and
Yeah, it
um,
interferes with the process of
yeah,
the stuff
kind of
that, I mean, it interferes with what you want to do if you had no one else's say.
right, yeah,
Yeah. Okay. Um. All right. What is beauty?
beauty. That is a really difficult one, and I want to say something profound. I don't know if I'll be able to, but I think that it's in a way everywhere. I think
Mm-hmm.
you can find beauty in almost anything, in any place. And the reason I think that is, um, as someone who believes that God created everything, I find that it's in a way saying that God is in all of it, in somehow, in some aspect, whether it's kind of twisted or tainted. Um, but I think that it kind of, there's this idea of general revelation, that uh, there's specific revelation, which is, God speaking through His Word, or through, like, I don't know, like an announcement, basically,
Mm-hmm.
when He did at Jesus' baptism, or something like that, to say, "This is my Son, in whom I'm well pleased." But there's general revelation, which is the idea of Psalm 19, where it says, God created the heavens and the earth, and all of that declares His glory. It pours forth speech day after day, night after night. It gives understanding. So um, I find that it's kind of hard to completely divorce something from God in a way that we can't appreciate at least some aspect of it. So um, I find that beauty there's it's such a broad definition, and it almost kind of depends on what you've been cultured to appreciate. But I think that you can find it almost everywhere, because it, in some ways, reflecting a quality of God, and an aspect of God, and that He's still there. Um, so yeah, that's I guess kind of what I would say is um, a quality that somehow is reflective of God.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Not very clear, but hopefully broad enough to be.
What?
It was not very clear, but hopefully it was kind of a broad idea that could kind of hold some other things within it, because I think that beauty, it's not like you have a north and a south, that it's kind of like you have like poles all over,
Mm.
and it's like you feel that gravitational pull in almost every direction, like, wow, this is beautiful. Well, then also this, like, the
Mm-hmm.
sublime, if we're thinking about the sublime, this like awe and fear, but it's also overwhelmingly beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of a married together. Or like a sad beauty, like it, when you see like something like a movie, or a friendship, or something that's so dear but sad, it's a beautiful thing. um, and so I think that it's kind of knit into all these different things, and so it's hard to say that there's one, this is beautiful, this is um, not. I think it's more like a spectrum. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
maybe it's getting closer to one of those poles that is um, kind of established, like a gemstone that has all these facets, um, and each one has its peculiar idea of beauty that we're attracted to.
Uh-huh. Okay. So, all right. So, what you're saying is that beauty can be found in anywhere because God created everything.
Yeah,
Um,
I'd say that's what I think. And so it's not a really great definition for what beauty is, but I think it helps me to understand why I can't just give one particular definition of beauty.
Yeah, but I guess I guess I mean it's just that okay, so it's I agree. I'm inclined to agree with the idea that it's everywhere, it can be found everywhere, but what is it? So then when you effectively find the beauty wherever it is, what is it? Is I guess the
I
question.
would say once, yeah, in a sense, it's I think purity or
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
somehow uh, a pleasure that is more than just something selfish.
Mm-hmm.
Because so often I think that we're motivated by selfishness, and so when we find it outside of ourselves, I think that somehow that uh, is attractive to us, and we want to kind of be united with it. Um, and so that's why I think we find, like, you know, gemstones beautiful, and then we want to wear them, or
Mm-hmm.
clothing beautiful, and we want to put it on, we want to be
Mm-hmm.
one
Mm-hmm.
with it. And I think that that's uh, an interesting thing. So maybe it's uh, yeah.
Okay, no, that makes a lot of sense, and I think it makes more sense brought together with what you said before about how it's everywhere, how beauty is everywhere, and the thing about a pleasure that is more than something selfish. I don't think I don't know if that's exactly what you said, but is that about right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just that makes a lot of sense because it's like when one is contemplating something that called your attention or whatever it is, um, you're observing the object, the flower, I don't know, whatever, the gemstone, like you're saying, and you're looking at it, and the object is outside of you. It's not in you or anything. It's not within you. It's an object that it's outside of your own body, and you're looking at it, and you're admiring it, and you're kind of studying the feeling or the object itself, or you're like in this moment of, I don't know, arguably even meditative moment of observation, and you're just like, why is this attracting me this way? I feel good, or I feel moved, or whatever it is, but I'm it's like a magnetic thing. And I think it taking one out of whatever it is that one is doing in the moment is like, I think that is the pleasure that is, like outside of something selfish, when you're doing something because it makes you feel good inside or something. And I'm not entirely sure whether beauty necessarily is supposed to make one feel good, like, or like in the, I don't know, like when you're eating something delicious, or when you're having sex or something like that kind of stuff. I'm not sure. It can obviously be there too in those places, but I'm just saying that. Like you were saying with the facets of a gem, it's like, or like the poles that you were talking about. It's like those things are also different aspects that can contain beauty, or they're aspects that are part of the whole that beauty might be. But I really I'm like totally rambling because I'm trying to like talk out the sense about this pleasure that is more than something selfish, I guess, because I like it a lot. It makes a lot of sense to me. Um, as at least as part of a definition of beauty, because it's like, I know that I'm deluding myself. I'm not trying to necessarily find a dictionary definition of art or beauty, in
Mm-hmm.
the sense that it's like, oh, 2 3 phrases, I'm not necessarily looking for that. That would be cool, I guess, but I don't think it's necessarily a goal of the conversations. um okay, so we don't have very much time left, but I want to go back to talking about your work, and then having gone through these three questions just now, because I don't know what you might have been told about the appearance of your work or anything, but I was told about my work. I don't necessarily think about the subject matter that you think about while you're making your work, okay? Because it's not underpinned in religion necessarily I don't think about that stuff necessarily while I'm trying to make work, but
Mm-hmm.
I was told like, oh, your work is dark, and oh my god, are you okay, or whatever it is, and like this kind of stuff, and it's like, no, I'm fine. It's not dark to me, and it's like I look at your work, and hopefully you don't think it's an insult, because to me it's a compliment, because I think your work is really cool. I enjoy your work. I think I asked you once about if you were selling a thing like the red thing with the 3 eye, like horse eyes.
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
love that thing.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyway, so but at the same time, it's like, I personally, and it's just my impression. Everybody sees whatever they want, right? But I enjoy like this atmosphere of it's very dense, and top lit portraits, thick atmospheres of some oppressive stuff surrounding you, and I don't know, arguably it's like, because also at the same time, in that case, in the connection with religion, there's imagery in the Bible that's just like, again, I don't know all of it, but it's just like scary shit, like in Revelations or something.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like it's not necessarily roses and stuff, so it's like, maybe the three horse eyes, for example, maybe you could argue it's like something related to that. But I wonder if you can talk to me about this aesthetic of your work.
Sure. Yeah. So I would agree. It's not overt. I don't try to. I don't want to come off over didactic in my work as to say like, you know, this is about this aspect of the Bible and therefore X, Y, Z.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's trying to ask more questions than give answers.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I like to create more curiosity about life itself and this immaterial aspect of who we are, rather than try and just say, this is the answer from the Bible. And so that's kind of why, because I feel like otherwise it's illustration. Like, I'm not just going to say, okay, this is an illustration of a Bible scene, bada boom, bada bing, done.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that life itself has so much in it where it's beautiful, but it's also painful, and it's great, but then it's also challenging. It's not Thomas Kincaid's paintings, which are just, kind of ethereal, light filled. There's no darkness. It's I think that there's this heaviness to it, and pain that is very real. But at the same time, I think that in the end, it's ultimately going to be good and turn towards God and redeemed and renewed. And so I'm catching it kind of in this in between of, is it real? Is it not real? But also, it's painful, but it's also, worthwhile.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's something that it resonates with people more than just to say, here's a painting of, someone from the Bible that's like, here's a very clear depiction of Jesus, and he's holding the little children in his lap and laughing and saying, everything's great. I think obviously there's a lot more to that. And so that's some of the aesthetic is realizing that, life isn't always a walk in the park. It's not always a, dozen roses or whatever the saying is, but it's still worthwhile. It's still meaningful, and that's kind of what I get at with it. Like visually, stylistically, it kind of shifts from body to work to body to work. Not always
sense, yeah.
necessarily consistent, but yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now. Is maybe kind of a window into another place, but it's also poetic. It's not just a illustration, and I like to think of it as it's the window and the wall. It's showing you something else, but it's also giving you kind of artifacts from that something else.
Okay, thank you
I
very
don't know
much.
if that's still super helpful, but that's kind of
No, that's good. That's good, and I think it's a really good place to end as well, because it's been 1 hour. All right, so I think that's a really great place to close off the episode, because life is definitely worth living and trying to make better in spite of any and all difficulties. So, Caleb, please tell our viewers and listeners what you're up to lately, where your work can be found, if you're you have an upcoming show, online class, I don't know, anything and everything you want to plug.
Sure. Thank you so much. Again, thank you so much for your time. And right now, I'm currently teaching at Cedarville University in Ohio. So the last 2 years have been basically just trying to understand teaching. So that's currently what I'm doing. This summer, I'm actually hoping to produce more of my own personal work, which is going to be reflected on my website, so calebdowbooth.com.
Okay.
If you are at all curious as to what my work actually looks like, you can check it out there. That's about it. I also have Instagram, booth.caleb, if you want to take a look through there as well. But yeah, that's kind of what's happening right now, is just trying to keep putting out fires at the school. And
that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, all of those two, like the website and your Instagram, are going to be in the video description. Okay, so well, thank you, Caleb, for joining me. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your words and your thoughts. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Feel free to let Caleb and I know what you think of this conversation in the comment section. Also, I invite you to subscribe to my audiovisual channel, because more of these conversations are coming. I also invite you to like this video, share it with any and all pertinent individuals. If you want to support Caleb, myself, this podcast, or all three, the links will be in the video description. So thanks everyone for watching and listening, and see you next time. Bye.